Hello, we're going to start in just a few moments, and before we do, we have a few announcements. For questions, please type those in the Q&A tab in the Whova app, either on the desktop browser or in the mobile app. All the questions are visible to everyone there, so if you see a question that interests you, please upvote that question to move it higher on the list. Ask your questions at any time during the presentation. You do not need to wait until the end of the talk to ask your questions. Due to limits on time, we may not get to all the questions, but we will do our best. Participate in the Passport Contest, where you can win one of 3 $500 gift cards. To qualify, you must visit all the sponsor booths and like the booth, leave a comment in the booth chat, and click on the button to accept the promotional offer or join the sponsor's mailing list. Last, the slides and videos from all the BrandSmart sessions will be available on the AMA Chicago website after the conference. And now, let's get started.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. On behalf of AMA Chicago, thank you for being here. This morning, I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Dave December, who is currently the Vice President of Marketing at 21st Century Equipment, a John Deere dealership with 16 locations. Most of you probably haven't heard of 21st Century, but I'm sure everyone has heard of John Deere. It's an interesting challenge, and today we'll hear about Dave's journey in building his own brand in the shadow of a mega brand. You'll also hear from Jamie Goff, account director with his agency partner, Lasasso Integrated Marketing, and you'll learn about how research and process have been both essential ingredients in 21st Century's recipe for success. We'll have time at the end for questions, so feel free to submit those questions in the Q&A part of the Whova app. And with that, without further ado, welcome Dave and Jamie.
Well, thanks, Julia. It's great to be part of this event. And thanks to the BrandSmart team for working so hard to get everything together, and the Chicago AMA for allowing me to speak here today. So I want to talk to you about building your brand in the shadow of another brand, specifically how I've been working on building the 21st Century Equipment brand in the shadow of the John Deere brand. I've had an interesting journey thus far in my career, and I'd like to tell you how those different parts of my background work together and feed off each other, and how I use those skills to help farmers and ranchers. For 2 decades, I've worked in sales and marketing roles at major companies like Ford Motor Company, C&H Industrial, Kent Nutrition Group, and Harley Davidson. And some of those position titles I had are Marketing Manager, Director of Global Communications, Director of Product Management, and Director of Marketing Services. So while I was in these roles, I did focus completely on this extended brands that were recognizable, respected, and even beloved. So in some ways, I would say that, the benefits of that was because they're a leading premier brand, a heritage brand, it was a little bit easier, if you will. Certainly there's brand recognition with Harley Davidson. Who hasn't heard of Harley Davidson? And history, Ford Motor Company has a long history that's legendary. And also with these mega brands, as I call them, there's a dependability that makes it easier for introducing new products and services. But it's not all roses either. You don't want to let down those customers that love you, and you must work through the internal argument that you always hear, we've always done it that way. And there's a lot of pressure to stay on top. So when I had the opportunity to make a change to my current role, I found myself in an exciting position. 21st Century Equipment is a 25-year-old agriculture and turf dealership with 16 locations in Colorado, Nebraska, and Wyoming. So the map you see in front of you, you can certainly see Denver, and our AOR, or area of responsibility, lies to the northeast. The red marker is Scottsbluff, Nebraska. That's where I am right now. And the other teal markers are 16 locations. 21st Century Equipment generates over $300 million in revenue annually and covers a 58,000 square mile area of responsibility, or AOR, as John Deere states it. Our AOR is about the size of the state of Illinois. We're a strong brand, a growing brand, but not yet a heritage brand. As 21st Century Equipment, we own nearly 50% market share in agriculture turf segments that we work in, and almost all of our revenue comes from farmers and ranchers. When we say our customers are feeding America and the world, let me tell you how much. Again, this is all within that 58,000 square miles that we work in. Nearly 40 million acres of farmland, over 900,000 beef and dairy cattle, and over 700 million acres of corn and wheat are grown annually. So while our coverage size is the size of the state of Illinois, you have to understand our population in this area is smaller than that of Naperville, Illinois. So my point is that I'm in the middle of big time farmland that's contributing to the world's food consumption. Now, the John Deere brand effect is enormous. It's a mega brand, over 160 years old. And in 2018, Interbrand, a consulting firm, ranked John Deere brand 88th amongst global brands and valued at over $5.4 billion. Certainly, John Deere is a mega brand with very, very high awareness. So off to Nebraska we went. Here's me, my wife of 27 years, Kim, and our pooch on, Beauregard Blue. Before taking the position, I never spent more than an overnight in Nebraska, and that was for the interview. Being from the Midwest, I'm actually from the UP of Michigan. I'm a Uper. When I was considering the job, I looked at a map and I thought, holy kryptonite, that's a long way out there. Now that I've been here a while, I know for a fact in all those 58,000 square miles, there's no Panera and no Chipotle, which is a little bit devastating. But I was very excited by my conversations with our CEO, Owen Palm, and his forward thinking, and the people I met so far in the company. But the greatest appeal for me was the challenge that lay ahead. So to build 21st Century Equipment into a premier brand that farmers, ranchers, and landscapers and homeowners turn to for top-notch equipment, service, technology, and consultation, it was important that we grow our legacy, our own reputation. But at the same time, I've kind of got to dig into my big brand background to make sure that we maintain our relationship and connection with John Deere. I'm well over a year into the challenge, and it's been a sensational one. So when I first started, my first order business at the start was to dig in deep. I knew before doing anything effectively, I had to get a true sense of the current state before moving forward. And I did this two ways. Number one, I sat down with the executive team to get a true understanding of their vision. And number two, I visited each of our locations, met with as many team members and experts that I could, and took an inventory of the needs, the wants, the challenges, and so many marketers out there listening to this. If you're a marketer, you know what the list sounded like. Not enough advertising, our website sucks, we need more brochures, we need help with our clinics and events. And in the agriculture world, I can tell you, we needed more hats. I know it's goofy to dwell on promotional items, but farmers love free hats. So what became very clear pretty quickly was there was a lot to do, but I had a strong desire to get going immediately. As a marketing team of 2 people, I knew we were going to need some help. There were high expectations for marketing by the team, and more importantly, my boss, the CEO, which included developing a new website, boosting our e-commerce sales, and launching an exclusive service program for precision agriculture. And also a few main themes kind of jumped out during my location visits and my discussions. They would become the backbone of our marketing strategy moving forward. They are community, employees, and competition. You know, John Deere is a premium brand, but if you take a look at this picture, this is the owners of 6 Mile Farms in Yuma, Colorado. For them, 21st century equipment is John Deere. We're the human bridge between the brand and the customer. This farmer only buys from someone he trusts. Uptime, parts and service, and expert advice are vital to his success. It's hands-on, it's personal, it's boots on the ground all day, every day. The next major theme was recruitment and retention. Our people are also very essential. There's not a huge labor pool here. I mentioned Naperville, Illinois earlier in regards to population. I'll give you another example. We have 6 stores in the panhandle of Nebraska. And I know there's people out there that are multitasking while you're listening to me. Go ahead and pull up a map of Nebraska. The panhandle is made up of 11 counties. It's 200 miles north and south and 100 miles east and west. In that area, there's only 85,000 people that live there. And did you know that in Nebraska, cattle outnumber people 6 to 1? I think it's even higher here in the panhandle. But the panhandle of Nebraska is rural farmland. Attracting and finding talent here is tough. And we're not only battling our competitors for the same talent, we're also battling against other John Deere dealers. Maintaining a desirable place to work is vital for keeping our employees here. Our brand must communicate work-life balance, flexibility, strong pay and benefits. And the third theme, competition. We're an authorized John Deere dealer, but we're not exclusive. This means not only do we have to face competition at the product level from competitive brands, but we're also facing competition at the sales level from other John Deere dealers selling the same equipment as us. Our brand has to differentiate us from the John Deere dealerships and our true competition like Kubota, Case, New Holland, Claas, Massey. So those three themes came out: community, employees, and competition. So one of my first actions after the initial period was to find a partner. My criteria, one that brings strategic value. Yes, I feel like I have some marketing expertise, and we have an outstanding product specialist in Regina Nargis. Regina is energetic and knowledgeable about agriculture. Heck, her and her husband Tyson own cattle, and they grow crops. I also have Clayton Stricker working on a lot of data and a little bit of e-commerce, but they're outstanding members of the team. But a right partner with us would leverage our strengths in an effective way. So bring strategic value. Number 2, fit. So we are in rural Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming. We didn't want ego, some fancy pants agency. We needed a group that was down to earth and could sit down next to us and roll up their sleeves. We needed a group, and number 3, we needed a group that had the expertise and specialists that we don't have, so they could become an essential part of our team. And we found these things. Lisaso integrated marketing. I can't stress enough about fit when making this choice. It's so important. I'll give you an example. I was the global communications director for the construction brands at C&H Industrial. When I had meetings with the team in Europe, I really had difficulties making progress. So I'm not a big coffee drinker, and you're probably wondering, where's he going now? So seems a little off topic, but my not liking coffee turned out to be very important. I found out that meetings were occurring at the espresso machine in the morning, in the noon, and nighttime. I was asked regularly to go have coffee, but I politely declined. Bottom line, I learned how to slam a shot of espresso a couple times a day, and meetings and communication improved 1,323%. In the same way, salespeople communicate differently. I'll say this for the folks just starting out in their career: passing on an invitation to go for a drink or a bite after work is not necessarily optional. There's so much value in staying to participate. It really helps anchor a relationship. One thing the team from Lasasso did very well during the start of our relationship was recognizing this. Just before COVID hit last year, we had a meeting in Deadwood, South Dakota, and all 16 location managers were there and our senior staff, Lasasso too. Sure, the meetings were productive, but the informal time spent over dinner and socializing with some of our veteran sales leaders went a long way in building trust early on. Jamie, who's our account manager with Lasasso. Jamie, please take us through some of the approach that Lasasso began with.
Sure, happy to. So our approach, before we could do anything successfully, or any site could be built or launched, we needed to really get under the hood and start with discovery. And this stage was critical because it both informed the project and helped define what success was going to look like after launch. We'd already heard the essentials from Dave pretty loud and clear. Our top goals naturally were to increase sales revenue and build the brand story. So in our research stage, we used a balance of primary research and data discovery. We talked with key stakeholders at 21st Century to get a deeper understanding of what data and information on the site was going to help them in their respective disciplines. This included personnel and stakeholders from the executive level down to HR, sales, and sitting in service positions. On the data discovery side, we conducted a full audit of all of the channels and channel success so that we had a better understanding of what was working and what wasn't working, and we could address that. And finally, we dug into the target audiences. So by this, I mean zeroing in more precisely on who we were talking to and what they needed from 21st Century as their local partner. This would help us address those needs and challenges through content on the site.
So the output from Jamie, what Jamie just described, gave us a springboard to move forward with this critical information. So audience insight, we needed to balance and address multiple audiences and their needs. We have a lot of B2B customers that are farmers and ranchers, and their primary motivation is production agriculture, the equipment managed as a tool, and it must be up and running for the 4 major steps of production agriculture. And I'm sure y'all know these: preparing the ground, planting the seed, protecting the crop, and harvesting the crop. Well, maybe don't, but other audiences included for us commercial landscapers and grounds crews, homeowners, lawn and garden enthusiasts, and we do a little bit with the compact construction market. The other key insight: there was a massive opportunity to think beyond the obvious. What does everybody usually think about? The sales, equipment sales. But we needed to put more focus on parts and service as a primary profit center for our dealership. You know, Yogi Berra, that old time Yankee, and I guess I'm dating myself a little bit, you can observe a lot by just watching. And let me tell you, I have observed throughout my career. You know, a tractor dealer, car dealer, motorcycle dealer will tell you the same thing. Selling that car, truck, or tractor, that doesn't make much in the way of profit. But if they work hard in the parts and service area, they can cover their fixed expenses, which is called absorption. And then yes, they can make a few points on selling new tractors and make a profit. But bottom line, we needed to focus on parts and service. Next, or first, we started on our digital properties. E-commerce and our website kind of showpiece our brand. Our site is where we often make our first impression keep or lose visitors based on their on-site experience, and help educate buyers during the independent searches before they even engage with us. Jamie, could you share a little bit more?
Yep, happy to. So coming out of our discovery phase, and in addition to those overarching goals that Dave had already laid out for us around increasing sales revenue and building the brand story, we identified a few additional key objectives for success here. One, we needed to deliver a cross-site experience that was going to better engage our very different audiences. Two, make it easier to browse equipment, parts, and service content by both need and application so that it was an intuitive experience for those navigating the site. Third, we've heard this from Dave already, but it was essential to focus on employee retention and recruitment and spotlight employee benefits and all of the reasons that 21st Century Equipment is a great company to work for. And fourth, and finally, we needed to focus on competition, which was a really complicated landscape. It was critical to help differentiate 21st Century from both competitive dealerships and other John Deere dealers. But we realized there was also direct competition from the mega brand itself, and retail competition on parts and consumables from the Amazons and the farm and fleets of the world.
Hey, Jamie, could I chime in here?
Sure.
I've got an example. I think about the OEM relationships with end users and how they've changed today. Back 20 years ago or 25 years ago when I started out, and it was kind of the early stages of the internet, consumers still got their information from a dealer about John Deere tractors. They went to the local dealer. And that goes for all branded products. They got it downstream at the retailer. Back then, if you wanted to contact a company, you might have found a PO box in some sort of old magazine, but good luck on a reply. Today, OEMs are talking to end customers, and customers are going to the OEM first instead of the dealer. And even brands like John Deere are selling directly and affect us when we're selling on e-commerce. I'll give you an example. So on our site, 21shed.com, that's 21shed.com, we sell a 1/32 scale die-cast value set. It's a little farm set. It's $29.99. The same product on johndeerestore.com, John Deere's merchandise site, is $29.99 as well. So our cost, $18.29, results in a 38% margin, or $11.50. And so out of that $11.50, anything we offer, like a sizzling summer sale or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer 20% off coupon and free shipping we offer, comes out of that $11.50. And do you think John Deere has that same margin? Well, believe me, I've worked for OEMs and their margin is higher. So John Deere is our competitor too. I'll turn it back, Jamie. I just wanted to share that.
Great. Okay, so at this point, we were ready to roll our sleeves up and get moving. We had that laundry list of must-haves and nice-to-haves and what our current site does not, and needed to distill it all into a creative brief. For us, the brief is a critical piece of the puzzle because it's used to steer the project and the team behind the website build. So I won't read the full brief to you because that would take too long. And I think what's critical is this insight piece that I am going to read to you. And the reason here is it's going to give you a flavor of how a proper research and discovery stage before a website build can help direct a project like this. Like you, we are farmers, ranchers, and members of the same community, providing John Deere equipment, services, and parts to a range of customers. From the big stuff, like combines and row crop tractors, to the smaller stuff, like turf and yard tractors, and all the parts and service to keep them operating at peak performance. We are alongside you, living and breathing it. For us, it's not just about selling and servicing equipment. This is about farming, ranching, and community. We don't talk at you or sell to you. We are living it with you and are in it for the long term. We know what's best for you, how it will enable you, and why you need it, because we practice what we preach. Wisdom born of being in it together now, and more importantly, in the future. We are committed to being farmers and ranchers with you in the 21st century, as we train and gather knowledge of the tools and equipment, empowering you as we invest in the future of farming. Collaborating with you as we both adapt to new best practices, helping you see the opportunities and be secure in your knowledge and in control. Together, we are open to change and to be better operators. You can rely on us to do what's right for you and act with integrity. We are acutely sensitive to your needs and are invested in them, because your livelihood is our livelihood.
Wow, Jamie, that's worth the price of admission right there. I think some great words about our organization and our relationship to our customers. So we went live with our new e-commerce site on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving in 2020, and just launched our new website on Martin Luther King Day this past January. Let me tell you about some of our early success. So we had an e-commerce site before I arrived, and over that 3 years, the website sales were probably about $5,000 in revenue. So it wasn't a very big hill to climb, but we did knock that out and a little bit more in just 2 weeks of launching 21shed.com. And versus our former website, our new website has more intuitive navigation, content organization, and user experience. And since the launch, our bounce rate has decreased and the time on site has increased. Strong indicators of success. Having web properties in order is just a start. With Lasasso support, we also developed a new digital media strategy with top funnel brand awareness campaigns, mid-funnel programs to promote products and seasonal services, and low funnel campaigns focused on offers, sales, initiatives, and to drive traffic into our dealerships and business for our service group. Since launching our new paid digital program, conversions from search campaigns increased 332%. I said it right, 332% year over year. All right, I did spend 103% more, so that contributes to it too. But social conversations have increased by 2,700% year over year, so we're seeing some great success. The other important priority for us in this past year has been our content strategy. Here's another good tip. The biggest hidden expense you're going to see, and the senior non-marketing executives don't think about, is new content for a new website. So I've been a part of other new website launches where this was an afterthought. Without new and engaging content, your customers aren't going to stay that long just to get better navigation and great organization, although those things are important. But one of the great research insights was great distinctions made between our target audiences. You know, as we mentioned a couple times, large commercial farmers and gardening enthusiasts do not have the same needs, but we're the same solution provider for both of those groups. So Lasasso has led us through a content strategy process to be sure before we're producing content, before we're spending money, we're producing the right types of content for the right people. We want content that adds value, something that our producers can take and use. So we are working on a project right now for water conservation recommendations that I'm sure our customers will be very interested in. So in building a brand, the first thing you need to know is that participating in the community builds trust. I'm going to give you a few examples of some of the things we've done. This year, 21st Century Equipment participated in the National Random Acts of Kindness Day by collecting food donations to feed hungry families during the week of February 17th at each of our 16 retail locations and our corporate offices in Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. We ended up donating over 4 tons of food to local food banks. Obviously, for us in the agriculture industry, food is a great tie-in with our business. Another example, back in July 2019, there was a canal breach and tunnel collapse near Fort Laramie, Wyoming. As a result, over 100,000 acres of farmland was left without irrigation and the crops were lost. So with farmers facing these losses, 21st Century Equipment sprung into action. We partnered with the Torrington Livestock Group, local radio, Kelly Bean Company, to sponsor a benefit concert to support these farmers that were effective. And we nearly raised $200,000, all of which went to the relief fund. And one more example, every year, 21st Century Equipment sponsors 4-H. 4-H is America's largest youth development organization. Head, heart, hands, and health are the 4-H's in 4-H. And they're the 4-H's that are values members work on through fun and engaging programs. Originally, we would give a donation to the National 4-H organization, but we discovered that much of those funds didn't trickle down to the local chapters in our rural areas. So we changed our tactics. In 2020, we gave out 43 individual checks totaling nearly $70,000 to our local 4-H chapters. So community is very important. The next important tactic is building a brand for employee satisfaction, because high employee satisfaction leads to stronger recruitment and retention of employees. And I'll give you some examples of what we're doing. So 21st Century encourages employees to nominate their coworkers for the Deeds nomination program. Monthly winners are recognized on our website and in our workplace. In addition, at our annual Christmas parties, nominees are selected randomly for a 2 to 3 day trip in our company jet to the John Deere headquarters in wonderful Moline, Illinois, and tour the facilities and factories where our tractors are built. Another example, we have 2 Christmas dinners each year, one for the northern part of our market area and one for the southern portion. Spouses and families are invited. We have a catered dinner, a DJ or a band. Last year, we even had a magician, giveaways, and employee recognition. This is where we recognize those folks for the Deeds nomination and also recognize employees for their years of service. And we also have a circle of excellence where we nominate new members every year. And if you're thinking you're investing on attracting new employees, you got to listen to this. This was certainly a surprise when I arrived here. I mentioned how important recruitment is. In a high school graduate with 21st Century Equipment can qualify for 100% tuition assistance to a tech school. And we give them $7,000 worth of Snap-on tools, health insurance, dental and vision insurance, flexible spending account, life insurance, MD Lives, cybersecurity, 401k, profit sharing, holidays, uniforms, paid time off, and a job during their school breaks at 21st Century Equipment. And after graduation, they have a job with us. So on top of that, very generous way to kick off someone's career out of high school, if you're an employee that recommends somebody like that, that employee can earn up to $10,000 for a finder's fee. Now that's an investment in recruiting people. Yet another program is our no lost time steak fries. If you're in one of our locations and you go a year, or the whole location goes a year without lost time for injury, all location employees and their families get a steak dinner cooked and served by the executive team. If they go 2 or 3 years, it's steak and shrimp. And if they go 4 years, it's dinner of a steak and lobster. And trust me, we cook up some fresh, juicy ribeye steaks from Colorado, Nebraska, or Wyoming. It's cattle country after all. And these steaks are as big as a dinner plate and as thick as a deep dish pizza. The families absolutely love it. And we have 9 locations going for 5 years in a row in 2021. Again, the employees love it, and taking your family to a nice night out for your workplace, you're definitely feeling a sense of pride working at 21st Century Equipment. And what kid doesn't like running around with the other kids playing on big John Deere tractors? We find that having a beer and steak at an event like this to celebrate our success with your colleagues and families absolutely eliminates any workplace friction and anything that happens during those busy times like harvest. So how do you build a brand, community, employees, and competition? You really need to consider your competition, not only the competitive brands, but others that sell the same brand and the brand itself. One example I'll share with you is how 21st Century is working on this. I mentioned earlier we needed to develop a program to support our precision agriculture business. So if you're not familiar with farming today, you probably don't realize how much technology is in this equipment. Did you know that we have a John Deere planter that will plant a seed within 1 inch of the planned destination for it to grow? So we bundled activities related to setting up and maintaining the technology, providing uptime service for our equipment, and supplying loaners for a machine that's down. So for example, we package these services by segment. So like rancher or farmer, or both these might farm and ranch, and others. We branded it Next Century Productivity Packages and sold these services as an annual purchase, so the producer has a fixed cost as they go through their production. This is something we've developed to differentiate ourselves from the competition, from the competitive brands and other John Deere dealerships. And these are only the earliest chapters of this story. We've accomplished a lot in a short time, but we want to keep the momentum going. We all know marketing is never complete. It's an ever-evolving change for our communities, employees, and the competitive environment. I love what I do, and I could certainly go on and on and on. But at the end of my presentation, I wanted to leave you with a clear message to build your brand. People buy from people they trust. Get involved in the community and make your brand about community. Second, employees are your #1 resource. Think about employee satisfaction with such policies as flexible time, employee recognition, and company events for recruiting and retention. And finally, it's obvious you're going against a competitor, but who else is your competitor? What other channels is your supplier selling in? What can you offer to deliver the best things for your company? So again, community, employees, and competition. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. And I know you can't hear the audience applauding, but I know they really appreciated this awesome presentation. And for me personally, I definitely want to figure out a way to get you some Chipotle delivered out there. So let me work on that.
Lou Malnati would be great.
Okay.
Missed that.
Well, we do have some questions from the audience, so let me get started. The first one is, how do you blend the story of the brands you sell with your own brand story? So I know you sell John Deere. Can you give us some examples of how you've been able to blend that story?
Well, I guess, so we sell John Deere and we sell other brands. And I guess, we're really trying to meet the needs of our customers. So no matter what somebody needs to go through that production agriculture cycle, we're willing to deliver whatever it takes by any of the brands. So I guess we blend it by being a complete solution to our customers.
Okay. How do you see the John Deere brand supporting your brand? Is it the platform from which you talk about your brand, or is it a backstop that provides a proof point to your brand?
Well, John Deere, my presentation may sound like John Deere is out to get us when I compared the margin, but John Deere provides a lot of support to us. They provide a widened site for images that we can use. They also provide ways for us to create ads very easily. They provide a lot of training. So they really provide that expertise in the products that we need. And I think, it kind of gives us, and I think we're aligned with their initiatives. I think community is very important to John Deere, and so it blends pretty well, and they serve very well to us.
Okay, that's great. Another question asks, I love the focus on the employees. Can you share any examples of how this added focus on employees has driven positive internal results? Many companies talk the talk, but don't walk the walk when it comes to giving their employees the love.
Well, I'll tell you, I've worked for a lot of different companies, and one thing I'll say is that we get along. I think I haven't been somewhere, and especially at the executive level, in some of those large corporate companies, it's a little cutthroat. I mean, you're competing against your neighbor in the neighboring office, but here we don't have any of that. And we seem to, we have several meetings that are over a beer and just relax and have simple conversation about the day's activities. And it really makes the difference. So our employee programs, I really think, contribute to a sense of having a team more than any place I've ever worked.
Okay, great. One more question. I know we've got a few more minutes here. Do you share content for both your B2B and B2C audiences?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have a lot of B2B content, and we probably have a little bit more B2C content. B2C customers, that are buying mowers have more questions. If you're buying this combine that's behind me here, those guys, they know it pretty well. But we still provide, some things. I think the water conservation is a piece of content that'll be big for those B2B customers. Maybe not so much for the B2C customer, although I think water in this part of the world is a big topic. But in any case, B2C customers tend to want a little bit more detail, and so we provide a lot of that on our site. We have a build your own tool so that a customer could go in and actually build their mower or build a small tractor and configure it the way they want, see the price, calculate the finance, see what their monthly payment is. So, we do provide content for both. Okay,
great. Well, one last question I think we'd all like to know is how many hats do you give away every year? If you could just guess.
That's funny because just recently at our meeting we had last week, all of the locations, we had hats shipped into one location. It's our annual buy. And one of the great things John Deere does is we buy as a group of John Deere dealers. So we get good hats for a good price. And I think it was 5.1 million hats. Okay. I'm joking, but it was 3,600 that we passed out, but I'm guessing we probably give away 10,000 hats every year.
Yeah.
People, they love hats. That's
well, Dave,
we have.
Well, Dave, we're out of time, but a big thank you again to you and your team at 21st Century Equipment. For the audience, we now have 30 minutes to refresh your beverage of choice, stretch a bit, and visit our sponsor booth. These are great partners with valuable options. You can get your passport stamped and have a chance to win a $500 gift card. Our sponsors have some great prizes too, like enter to win a free AirPod or work from home kit. And we'll see you back at the next breakout session at 11:05 with a focus on brand innovation and evolution. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks.
And we'll see you back at the next breakout session at 11:05 with a focus on brand innovation and evolution. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks.